Hey guys, what's up? Sandu here. So today I'll be talking about huge enveloping sound, about open wide soundstage, about naturalness, sweet harmonics, and about tube warmth that xDuoo TA-30 offered for the last week or so. So if you are asking yourself what exactly this unit does, it is simply a DAC, it is also a preamp, a headphone amp combo, but also a Bluetooth receiver. So I reviewed a hybrid tube design DAC and headphone amp combo about 1 year ago. It was the smaller brother of this unit, it was the TA-10. And compared to that one, TA-30 is an old tube design, so it's not a hybrid. It uses higher grade components, it also sounds much better. And before I tell you how it sounds in my very detailed fashion, let's unbox it first. Quite a big box, let's open it up. So you have an user manual in English, nice. A warranty card, okay. Okay, so let's have a look what we have right here. Tube guards, 2 pieces. A USB type B cable to use it as a DAC. A headphone adapter and a Bluetooth antenna. And that is basically it. Okay. You have a power cable. Okay. xDuoo stamped rectifier, quite nice. And the driver tubes, ECC82. And the unit itself without the tubes. Quite heavy. Big transformer inside. That's a good sign. And that is basically it. Let's go to the specs and the looks. In terms of design and build quality, TA-30 is not that big per se. It is much heavier than it looks thanks to that oversized power transformer that is staying on top to better dissipate the heat. I personally like it a lot without the tube guards. It looks simpler that way. The case is made out of machined aluminum alloy that reduces electromagnetic interference and also works as a giant heatsink. I like that all the screws were moved underneath and on the back for a much cleaner look. xDuoo went with a much bigger display that offers a better visibility and brightness, and it is free of any LEDs that weren't that cool on the TA-10. It will show you the selected input, the sample rate, the PCME or DSD data stream. If Bluetooth input is used, it will show you the exact codec it receives from the Bluetooth sender. There are 4 buttons on the front, an input selector with 5 positions, a filter button that is mostly set and forget, a Bluetooth button that will pair or unpair a Bluetooth source, and a language button that has 2 positions, English or Chinese. The volume pot is an analog one. I personally like the look of the volume knob, but I dislike how easy it is turning the volume up and down. I would like it to have a higher physical resistance. Just be extra careful when you handle it, because TA-30 is incredibly powerful even with the most demanding headphones. TA-30 is a single-headed amplifier, so the headphone jack on the front is a simple 1/4 inch one. On the back it offers 4 digital inputs, USB, coaxial, optical and Bluetooth. You can also use it as a headphone amp or a tube preamp in case you use the auxiliary in, or you can use it as a DAC, as a tube preamp, or just as a preamp by sending the audio signal to a power amplifier using the aux out. Digital to analog conversion is done by a single ES9038 Q2M chip that in my opinion works a whole lot better with vacuum tubes than the former AK4490 from AKM. xDuoo went all in with the digital processing, so they used a high-performance Altera FPGA that I've seen in the Topping D90 DAC. It has 2 low-noise crystal clocks that will better cover a wider sampling rate. Elna Silmic 2 audio-grade caps are everywhere, together with Nikon caps, all sourced from Japan. xDuoo even developed their own metal polyester film caps that are working as coupling caps for the tube stage, and things are getting already very serious in here. As a Bluetooth receiver, TA-30 is using currently the best Bluetooth chip on the market, the CSR8675 from Qualcomm, This one is capable of receiving audio streams in CBC, AAC, aptX, aptX HD, aptX low latency, and LDAC codecs. LDAC is currently the best Bluetooth codec that is capable of sending up to 990 kilobytes per second data streams, so most of your 60-bit lossless PCM files will be received as an exact copy of the original file. As for the amp section, TA-30 is using two current production ECC82 double triodes made by JJ Electronic. There are plenty of substitutes for these tubes as 12AU7, B329, CC82E or 13D8, and all of them are basically compatible with it. Power rectification is made by a single 5Z 3P tube with an xDuoo logo stamped on it. There are also a few substitutes for 5Z 3P tubes as 5U4G, 5U4GB, and again there are many manufacturers that are making them. As a headphone amp, it will offer a whopping 3 watts of power into 32 ohm loads, but since it has a plus 16 dB of gain, that can be changed with a lower value. Forget about listening to IEMs with this one. In terms of sound performance, for starters I will mention that because it has a higher number of capacitors inside, it was mandatory burning it in for at least 100 hours, and as silly as it sounds, even those two driver tubes and this rectifier also need a little bit of burn-in, and at least 48 hours are needed before making any critical listening. At first it sounded closed in, it was on the hotter side with brighter treble, there wasn't any specialness, dynamics felt forced somehow and really stiff. 1 week later there is nothing basically left of that, so spaciousness and transparency improved the most, bass made its appearance, and finally it's sounding easygoing and smooth. And in its stock form it lacks brightness, it sounds warm and inviting, it is easygoing with light acoustic music, but also can be engaging and quite explosive sounding with faster paced music. So it sounds a whole lot sweeter than my all discrete solid slate amplifiers. It just carries more emotion, it sounds meatier and smoother almost all the time. Hearing the background noise of older recordings like Elvis Presley, Beatles, Led Zeppelin wasn't as painful as it was on the benchmark HPA4. So the intensity of that noise was the same, but it was just somehow softer sounding on xDuoo, and it didn't bother me at all. So the transit response is just by a hair softer, and leading edge of the notes are somehow rounded sounding. So drums and cymbals sounded clear, they sounded natural and right, but they were always free of any over sharpness. If your music is grainy sounding, too processed, uninvolving, or just rough around the edges, then I think TA-30 works as a magic pill for that kind of music. So any record I would listen to, TA-30 will just calm me somehow, with smoother notes, with sweeter harmonics. So string-based instruments had a touching vibration. It was a bit longer than on my solid-state electronics. So overall the music had more volume, it sounded bigger, deeper, but without putting a foot in front of the dynamics. So I'm extremely glad that xDuoo went with an ESS Saber DAC with this unit, because I think it helps a lot with the tonal balance, with the speed, with the impact, with the overall cleanness of the sound. So I feel that a different chipset from the likes of AKM, Wolfson analog devices will just make it too syrupy sounding, too warm, and would just hide away some of those details. And will just tilt the tonal balance way too much. So the overall package of an ESS Saber DAC with an all-tube design, I think it works wonders with some particular music and with some particular headphones. So if you are using Sennheiser HD700, HD800, all beyerdynamic headphones, all AKG headphones, you should put a hawk-eye on this particular unit. I think it's worth a shot. As for the bass, I imagine that TA-30 will not really work with electronica or with faster paced music. Since LCD4 by Odyssey is really notorious for detecting weak dynamics and lazy bass, I fired some infected mushroom, returned to the source, and I closed my eyes. So in the next moment LCD4 was slamming me with an enormous energy in the bass that was going really low. In terms of dynamics and slam, TA-30 is performing above my expectancy level and actually impressed me the most in this department. It offers just a bit of bloom in the bass, and it envelopes the whole listening space with just more volume and more weight. So the only thing that was rendered different compared to the benchmark HPA4 and Kinky Studio THR1 is the speed of the bass and how much time it lingers around. So solid-state amps had it faster, but it was short-lived. So TA-30 would remain just a fraction of a second longer in the bass. I will pulsate just a little bit deeper and will leave a bigger stain on the music. All in all, bass response is one of the strongest points of this unit, so it will go low, it will be maintained, and it will impress a bass addict. The absolute best part of TA-30 in terms of frequency response is that magical mid-range. So if acoustic music, instrumental music, or anything that has to do with musical instruments, with voices is part of your audiophile diet, then I think it will impress you from the first minute of pressing play. So TA-30 will just decompress all that music and then will add a vivid filter all over it. It puts a much bigger accent on musical involvement and much less on the technical aspect of it. So TA-30 doesn't want to impress with that ultimate detail or that over sharpness. It is against those and chooses a mellower and a calmer approach to music reproduction. So if on solid-state amps I'm hearing a very clear outline, a very clear leading edge of that note, with TA-30 I'm hearing the core, the middle the innards of those notes, its weight and texture. So sweeter harmonics at play here, obviously, and the TA-30 will just offer a higher contrast and just a more vivid musical experience. As for the treble, I started listening to Mark Newman Until the Morning Comes, and I couldn't believe how clear is that drum kick and how sparkly are those cymbals sounding. So I expected it to sound recessed and shy in this department. That was really not the case. So I heard just a well-extended, sparkly but still natural, smooth and present top octave. So I felt a serious thump in the drum, slam was great, and again those cymbals sounded so clear and so defined. So I checked my gear and yeah, I was still listening to the xDuoo TA-30. I could easily focus only on the treble area because TA-30 is somehow decompressing my music without open wide stage, and it was really easy focusing only on the treble. I wasn't expecting to say this, but it has a great treble extension, and I can only imagine how it might sound with better driver tubes or with a better rectifier. So moving on to the transit response, and while listening to all kinds of modern music, I've heard just an impressive slam and a very good punch. It moved so much air around that I started nodding my head and toy-tapping my feet. Combine a good slamming amplifier with a transient monster as Odyssey LCD4, and you can already imagine that I was high in the clouds, so just a very pleasant experience. Listening to some industrial rock, TA-30 sounded as fast as the Class A solid-state amps like Kinky Studio THR1, like Burson Conductor Free reference, Audio GD D28, and just by a hair slower than the benchmark HPA4. So I especially like that TA-30 was just decompressing the song first. It would increase the void space between the notes, and only after that it will play back everything. The ultimate attack is just great with some explosive dynamics. The decay is also unusually fast for a tube amplifier, offering a livelier approach. It was just by a hair slower sounding compared to the best solid-state amplifiers that I know. And if we are talking about soundstage, then this is really simple, because up until this point, as a headphone amplifier, TA-30 took the first spot as the widest sounding, the deepest sounding headphone amplifier that I know. So it just outperformed the Kinky Studio THR1, the Burson Conductor Free, the Audio GD D28, and even the benchmark HPA4 in terms of depth and soundstage size. Any headphone I would connect, it would show me the limits in terms of soundstage size, so I didn't know that Odyssey LCD4 or RZH Phobos could sound so spacious, so deep and wide. Hell, even the hi-fi area with its narrower stage was sounding much wider left to right. So I found additional layers, especially in the mid-range. Voices sounded expansive and quite deep. Even the recording room was increasing in size somehow. In terms of details, it was wise putting an ESS Saber DAC inside, an Altera FPGA, and 2 crystal clocks, because they all played a much bigger role in achieving a clear output without a trace of harshness or brightness or distortion. So TA-30 is always grain-free sounding, quite transparent and quite detailed sounding too. However, if you use sensitive headphones and IEMs, there is a gentle and barely audible hum, at low level listening, so it is decreasing in intensity once you go higher in the volume, so at the normal listening level I am just unable to spot it, even with my portable headphones. So if the last bit of resolution and ultimate detail retrieval is important to you, then you might want to look elsewhere, as the main goal behind this device was just something else. As for the power output, this one has one of the most powerful amp section that I've tried. So I consider OTC LCD4 and Hi-Fi Man area really inefficient headphones, yet at less than half volume it drives them like it's nothing. So I don't know what was on their minds. If they wanted to drive every headphone with a single unit, then I think they succeeded with the xDuoo TA-30. The culprit is not only those 3 watts of power into 32 ohms, but also a much hotter gain of plus 16 dB that is suggesting that it will work only with desktop, low sensitivity and high impedance headphones. So I wish it had a 5th button that will lower the gain setting. For example, a 0 dB unity gain setting would be just perfect with IEMs and with portable headphones. Even some desktop class headphones don't need huge amounts of power, like focal headphones or Grados. So I'm glad to report that with all planar magnetic headphones that I have at my disposal, TA-30 was driving them with just an amazing control, with a very good grip. So I never felt that I need more power than that, and as much as I stressed it, it was like a walk in the park for it. Even in the crowded passages or in higher dynamic swings, it was just a very easy task for it. As a wireless receiver having a longer and a thicker Bluetooth antenna, it had a much stronger signal compared to the likes of topping DX7 Pro, D90, D50S, bars on conductor free. Even with 3 concrete walls between and 15 meters between me and TA-30, the signal was always strong, and I just didn't lose a single bit. So the Bluetooth antenna works as a wireless amplifier, so it all makes sense now. So in a 4-room flat, xDuoo TA-30 performed flawlessly connected to a smartphone and streaming some lossless Tidal content. What was even more amazing, that all the music I streamed from my smartphone to TA-30 sounded exactly the same as TA-30 connected to my PC and playing the same lossless files from the desktop Tidal Hi-Fi app. So TA-30 can work as a powerful wireless setup without the need of a PC or a music source. Now, considering everything that it does just right, $710 seems like a small price to pay for the greatness that it offers. You can get it directly from the xDuoo web store, or you can get it from the APOS Audio by following the links that I put below. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. My full in-depth review is waiting on my website. In case you want to support this channel, please subscribe to it, and thank you for doing that. And as usual, listen to my music, be positive, and I'll see you soon. Cheers guys, bye bye.